Good morning. It is Tuesday, the 21st of February, and today is what we might call Shrove Tuesday. It's not a liturgical celebration, but it's a wonderful time for fellowship and just to begin to focus down and to root ourselves into Lent, which starts tomorrow with Ash Wednesday. But today I want to look at the wonderful lesson that we can glean from the Old Testament reading for morning prayer today and the New Testament. Old Testament lesson is from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verses 16 to the end, verse 25. And then we look at the letter to the Hebrews, chapter 2, verses 1 to 10. In Deuteronomy, if one assumes that it is Moses who wrote this entirely, then Moses, and the writers, are saying to the people, do not forget what God has done for you. And if you think about it, how incredible would have been the memory, maybe not living memory. Well, certainly when Moses wrote, it was living memory. But for the people who started reading this for the first time, it was just perhaps outside of living memory when they were slaves in Egypt. And yet God, through his mighty hand, redeemed them, led them from captivity through a period of formation and into the promised land. And we are told, or they are told in Deuteronomy, do not forget what God has done for you. And they are reminded of this because as we have been exploring in the book of the prophet Isaiah the last few weeks, we know that people do forget. And if we are true and honest about ourselves, we know that we forget so quickly and so easily. And we don't just forget what the time is or the meeting that's coming up. We forget about God and the commandments God has given to us. Deuteronomy reminds us and reminds the people, do not forget the time that you were captives, prisoners, slaves, and how God redeemed you. And then when we come to Hebrews, we have a very similar thing. But this time, the writer to the Hebrews is not talking about the Egyptian captivity. He's talking about general human captivity and the reminder that God, through Jesus, has redeemed us. And so we need to learn that as the people in the Old Testament so easily forgot about God, so it is possible for us today in the New Testament to likewise forget about God. And we must not forget about God. We must continually remind ourselves of the commandments God has given us and that we are to obey them. And we know that we fall short so very often, but we know that we can simply, as it were, bow our heads in contrition to seek repentance and forgiveness. Well, not to seek repentance, but to ask for forgiveness by repenting of what we have done wrong. And our gracious God, when we are honest and sincere, is equally honest and sincere to us. So, folks, let us not forget God. Let us remain focused on him. And more especially at this time as we begin to move into the time of Lent, a wonderful opportunity to remind ourselves of our sinfulness, not to hit ourselves with big sticks and say, oh, what terrible people we are. Actually, it's when we know who we are, then we can see just how great and wonderful, beautiful even, is our God. So folks, have a good day, and we'll chat again tomorrow, Ash Wednesday, and then we can work and walk this journey together through Lent. God bless.